welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to share with you a review of the new Makeup Geek in the Nude collection. So I'm going to be reviewing their new eyeshadow palette as well as their 3 new bronzers. So if you guys are interested in hearing my thoughts about these and also seeing some swatches, then just keep on watching. So the new in the Nude Makeup Geek collection launches on June 15th. I was able to get everything a little bit early. I went to the Makeup Geek launch party and they were gifting the whole collection. So I've been able to try it out for a few days already, and I do have thoughts about all the new products. And I'm going to start off with the eyeshadow palette, which I think is the most talked about so far. And this is a $50 palette. You get 9 shadows as well as a mirror. You get 5 of the original formulas, which are these 5, and then these 4 shadows are brand new to Makeup Geek. And I was a little taken aback by the $50 price tag for 9 shadows. I don't really like to spend more than like $45 for like a big palette. So I wanted to break down the cost for you guys. So each Makeup Geek shadow, their single shadows are $6 and their foiled shadows are $10. So technically you're getting a $62 value palette. It's still $50, so I wanted to compare it to some other palettes just to see how much product you're actually getting. And so comparing it to a modern Renaissance palette, this is $42. You get 0.28 ounces of product. And this you get 0.58, so you're actually getting more than twice as much product for just $8 more with a Makeup Geek palette. And then a chocolate bar palette, these retail for $49. You get 16 shadows. Like, it looks like a whole lot of shadows. It is a whole lot of shadows, but you're actually getting just slightly less for 0.56 ounces compared to 0.58. So these basically have about the same amount of product, even though it seems like you're getting less with this one. So I just wanted to give you guys some perspective of how much product you're getting, but definitely let me know in the comments if you prefer palettes like this that have less shadows but bigger pans to play with versus like 16 shadows with smaller pans. I think I prefer more shadows, even though I only end up using like 3 or 4 shades in an eyeshadow palette. I still really like a big palette. So that's just the value so you guys can know, because it is a lot of money. $50 is a lot of money, but you are getting a ton of product. But I'm gonna move ahead into some swatches so you guys can see all the colors and see if you would like them. And I will say that they definitely perform better and are more exciting on the eyes than when I actually swatched them. When I swatch them, they basically just look like all brown shadows, but you can definitely do a lot with them. I've been using it for a few days and I've done different looks each time. And especially for a neutral palette, you can still get some like bolder looks like what I'm wearing today. But I'm gonna go ahead and swatch all the shades for you guys so you can see all the colors and see how you would like them. So the first shade is Rapunzel, and this is like a satin shade. It's not exactly super shimmery. It almost looks matte. But it's a very finely milled satin shade, which is really pretty for the brow bone. That is what's on my brow bone today. I really like this shade. It's just like a staple for me in a neutral palette. And next we have In the Spotlight, which is super creamy. It kind of looks a little bit orange in the pan, but when you swatch it, it has more of a pink tone to it, which I prefer. This is kind of like in the inner corner of my eye, or inner third of my lid. It's a beautiful color. It's a foiled shadow and it swatches beautifully. It performs beautifully. And then the new shade in this row is called So Pale. It's just like an eggshell color. It's nothing super exciting. It's barely going to show up on my skin tone because it just blends away into my skin, but it's just what I used as my base shade. So those are the first 3 shades in the first row of the palette. Next we have Tan Lines, and that's what I used as my transition shade today. It's a really beautiful warm brown color that has, it kind of reminds me of Peanut Butter from Too Faced. It's more of like a reddish brown. And then Buffed is a new shade. This is like a matte pinkish brown. It's a very light color. It's a really pretty transition shade, and it would look really pretty with In the Spotlight, like all over the lid. So that's a really nice transition. And then lastly, this other new color is called Crease. This is the one color in the palette that I probably won't wear too much. It's more of a cool tone, grayish brown. I just feel like there's a lot of warm colors in this palette, and I probably won't throw in like a neutral, cool toned brown in the middle of all of these warm shades. So this is probably the one shade I can do without in the palette for all the neutrals that are already in there and all the warm shades that are already in there. And then next we have Cabin Fever, which I also used as like an outer V shade. It's this really pretty burgundy brown color. I love those kind of like cranberry tones. I like them year round basically. So I've been wearing that a lot. And then next we have my favorite shade. This is Grandstand. I know this is like a staple for Makeup Geek. A lot of people talk about this shade. It's this gorgeous kind of cranberry shade. It's foiled. It's what's on my lid today. That is definitely my favorite shade in the palette. Something I definitely will wear on a weekly basis. And then lastly, we just have a neutral dark brown called Dark Roast. And this is another new shade to the collection. Just a really pretty dark brown for like an outer V, something to make anything more dramatic. So these are all 9 shades in the palette. They all work really nicely. They swatch nicely and they blend out super easily. It doesn't take very long to get an eye look with this palette. Like this eye look took me just a few minutes. I didn't have to think about it too hard because they all make sense. Like all the neutral shadows, the matte shades make a lot of sense to me, except for this neutral, like kind of ashy brown. But the rest of them, they all work really nicely together, so you don't have to overthink an eye look too much, and you can get something that's super neutral or something more dramatic. I do wish there was one more shimmer shade in here. I wish there was like a champagne or gold color, something else for the lid that wasn't just the pinky tones. You do get this shade that is a little bit satin, and I did wear that as a lid color the other day, and I liked it, but it wasn't super exciting. I'd rather have like an option that is champagne that is neutral but not pink, basically. So I do wish there was one more shimmer in there, and I could do without this grayish brown, but other than that, I would definitely wear every shade in the palette, and I do think it makes a lot of sense because it is really cohesive, which I like. Sometimes palettes like this, they're just like super random, but this one you can definitely get a lot of different looks out of. You guys can see that the formula is very consistent. All the shadows swatch the same. The only one you can't really see is this one, So Pale, because it's basically like white. It just blends into my skin tone, but the rest of the shadows perform really, really nicely. The formula reminds me a lot of the ColourPop single shadows, which I really like that formula too. So that's kind of what the consistency reminds me of, but I'm really liking these shadows and I really like the layout of the palette. Like I said, I do wish there was one more shimmer shade. I feel like that would make the palette really complete for me. I was a little confused that there was 2 shimmers that are both in the pink range, but I think that's kind of the point of the palette. So definitely let me know your thoughts about the color selection in here because I really like it. I have been loving this eye look with the palette. I feel like it's very Marlena. It makes sense for her collection. And I do like the other shades in here as well. I just wish there was like another option for a shimmer shadow. So next, moving on to the bronzers. They released 3 new bronzers. These are $22 each, and they have a light, a medium, and a dark shade. The first shade is the fair skin shade called Sunkiss. And I'm actually really impressed with this particular shade out of all of them. I didn't think I would really wear the fair one. I thought I would gravitate towards the medium or the deep shade. But the fair one's actually my favorite, and it is lighter, but I feel like it just suits me really nicely. It's very neutral, and I love the finish of all of these bronzers. They're like a satin finish, which I love for bronzer. I hate matte bronzers. My face isn't matte, so I don't want a matte bronzer usually. And this is basically gonna blend into my skin. It's like 2 or 3 shades darker, but it just looks really pretty because it just gives you a very natural sun-kissed look. You can apply a lot of it and it doesn't look too heavy. And because it's more neutral, it's never gonna look red or orange, at least on my skin tone. So I really love this shade. You guys can see it's so subtle on my skin tone. But if you're fair, you're probably gonna love this shade. But for like my light medium skin, it actually works really nicely. So I have this on like on the perimeter of my face, and I actually have the deep one on to contour today. But this shade is definitely my favorite of all 3. And you guys know I love to cream contour. But when I cream contour, I also top off my contour with some kind of bronzer, something subtle. And this is something I'm definitely going to be using on like a day-to-day basis. I definitely recommend this one. And next, the medium shade is called Tawny. And I thought the medium one was the one that I would be wearing the most. But this is the one I see myself wearing the lace. It's a little bit red. It has kind of like a slight reddish, a little bit of an orange tint to it, and that goes wrong really quickly on me. So it doesn't look too bad on my skin. I can wear it, definitely. I have worn it on its own, but to contour, not so much because it can get really orange looking quickly. But if you're somebody with more of a medium complexion, this might actually work better for you than it does on me, since it kind of shows up too obvious on my skin tone for my liking. I can wear it, but I do have to go in with a lighter hand. And then the deep shade in Burnished is actually something that works better for me than the medium one, which is weird because it is a lot darker. But it's also cool tone. It has kind of like an olivey undertone that's very flattering, especially for contouring. So I use this on my cheekbones today to contour. I didn't use it all over. I was kind of nervous to. When I've worn this, I've worn it in combination with Sunkissed, the light one, and I've been doing that where I just use this to contour my cheekbones and then the light shade all over just to bronze. And I really like that combination. This one, it looks really deep in the pan, but when you swatch it, it's just like kind of a little bit of a darker contour shade. So if you're similar to my complexion or any deeper, you can definitely wear the dark one because like I'm wearing it as my cheekbone contour and it doesn't look like super dark on me. So I'm really impressed with the dark shade and the light shade. With the medium shade, I don't see myself wearing it too often just because I have to like really control my brush and not pick up too much product. Otherwise it just looks reddish on me. But the light and the medium, or sorry, the light and the dark shades are definitely winners for me. I love the formula. It's super pigmented, very blendable. I love that they're all more satin. Even the dark one for contouring, it's has the perfect tone for contouring, but it doesn't look so harsh because it's not matte. It has a really natural finish that actually looks like skin. So that is everything for the Nude collection. Definitely let me know your thoughts about this collection in the comments below. I know the eyeshadow palette is $50. It's a lot of money. I don't really like to spend $50 on eyeshadow palette, so that's definitely personal preference. If you like bigger pans with less shadows versus a ton of eyeshadows with smaller pans, definitely let me know that in the comments. But the formula is actually amazing. It was really easy to blend out every time I've used this. All the shadows perform beautifully, so the formula and the quality is definitely there. It's just up to you if you like these colors. Of course, I love like those peanut butter shades, really warm, rose gold, pinkish tones. That's like definitely me. And I definitely recommend the bronzers. They have a really creamy finish. They're very blendable, very pigmented, and they're $22. I know there are cheaper bronzers out there, but even some high-end formulas are like in the $30, $35 range, and these feel super high-end. So definitely recommend these as well. Let me know if you guys plan on picking anything up from this collection or what your favorite Makeup Geek product is in the comments down below. And if you guys like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'll talk to you guys soon in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.